Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this Winnie the Pooh cake topper out of fondant. First you want to mix a little yellow, orange, and white fondant to get this Winnie the Pooh color. Then you're going to want to roll it out to smooth out all the lines and then make one side a little more bulbous than the top so he has like a nice little belly. I used about 95 grams of fondant if you're going to measure it out, but use your eye. Now you're going to get a lollipop stick, stick it up through the body, twisting as you push so you don't distort the body too much. I kept the body about 3 inches tall. Here you're going to do the legs, roll them out, not too thin, not too thick, and make sure that you cut them about 2 inches long, including the feet. Use a ball tool to add more definition to the bottom of the feet. Using some tylose glue, add a little bit on the body, a little on the feet, or the legs I should say. Place them on. I like to lift up the body a little bit and try to get part of the leg underneath the body, but it's not necessary. I just don't like it to stick out too far. Once I finished that, I started the arms. I kept the arms about 2 inches long as well, about the same thickness of the legs. Using a fondant smoother will definitely keep your roll fondant even, which is nice. Pinching the ends just to get a little bit of a paw shape. Flattening it out so it has more of a hand. As you can tell, I'm overly fussing with these hands, but it's okay. They look cute in the end. So I just covered them so I could do the shirt. You could do the shirt first and then do the arms, but I like the arms to kind of sit because then it's easier for me to put them on so they're not so flimsy. Roll out some red fondant. Pretty thin, not too thin, but if you're going to use a pasta machine, maybe a KitchenAid, I would say it's probably about a 3 or a 4. So it's not crazy thin. Measure the torso area on the body. Leave a little extra above so he has a collar. I think I did about an inch, excuse me, an inch and a quarter. I just basically eyeballed the length. You could add some lines on the top for the collar area. Pinch in the front part of the collar to kind of stretch it so it has that crease in it. Add a little bit of glue to the body, not too much because you don't want it to slide too far. I don't put a lot in the back because when I go to cut the seam, I don't want it to be real sticky and messy, so try to be careful and conscious of that because it can get a little messy. I didn't realize till after the fact that his shirt was slightly crooked, but I did go back at the end and kind of evened it up a little. It's a little low on his left side. Shape the shirt the way you want. Add some lines for a little more realisticness. I don't know if that's a word. It is now. So the red is overlapped in the back. I just cut a line through both pieces of fondant, peeled one and peeled back the left side to remove the excess. Line up the seams and try to smooth it out the best you can. It is the back, so it doesn't have to be super perfect. Fuss, fuss, fuss. Fuss, fuss, fuss. Okay. Add the arms on with a little bit of glue. Using the leftover red fondant, cut some rectangles out. I eyeball it, so if you're measuring, I would say it's probably about a half an inch. For the sleeves. Tuck around the arms, the fondant, so you can't see his arm. Gives it the illusion that it wraps all the way around. The Dresden tool definitely is a great tool with the point to get those little pieces of fondant tucked nicely under the arm. You can add a few lines on the ends of the sleeves to give it some more realistic qualities. Now when you're doing the head, I did measure out 35 grams of fondant, so you can use that as a guide. He does have a pretty big head. Roll out the fondant, trying to remove any lines or seams that are there. Once it's in a ball, you can place it down on the table and try to build up his nose area, which kind of protrudes above his face. Making little indentations around where you think your eyes are going to go. His eye area across is pretty flat, so you don't need to worry about any like too prominent eye sockets or anything like that. So just try to keep it as flat as you can. He does have like a little bit of a little forehead that kind of comes out. You can see a little subtle line across his forehead. You can kind of see it. It's got a little bit of a overhang, I guess. His nose area is very round and sticks out pretty far, I guess. Once you have the nose area the way you want it, you can start making little areas on the side of the mouth for where you're going to start cutting. The corners of his mouth go in a little bit, so you want to be conscious of how that's going to be once you start cutting. I try to get the shape the way I want it before I start cutting, because once you cut, there's no turning back. So this little ball tool, I just kind of push in where the corners of the mouth are going to be, just to give it more definition. And now with an X-Acto knife, I'm going to go in on an angle and cut the mouth across, kind of going up into where his nose is. So you don't want to go straight in, because you want to give that illusion that the mouth is going up in on an angle. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, using the Dresden tool, just kind of try to smooth out those harsh lines that the knife makes. Keeping the shape of your face the way you want it. For the face, I don't really add too much tylose powder, if any, just because I like to have a lot more working time with the fondant. But if you feel that you can get it done faster and you're comfortable with it, then I would add some just to help you keep the shape that you want. But I fuss like way too much with it, so I need it to be as soft as possible. As you can see, I'm still fussing. Using a really small ball tool, just add the little sockets for the eyes. They line up with the corners of the mouth, so they're mouth width apart where the corners are. Add a little bit of glue on the lollipop stick and the bottom part of the neck, and then put your head on. You might need to readjust the shape of his head a little bit once you put him on, because he can get a little smushed. Just readjust his head a little bit. Now with the ball tool, just make 2 holes at the top for his ears. You can make them a little wider using a bigger ball tool or the Dresden tool, whatever works. When making the ears, just get a little piece of fondant, roll it out into a ball, and start twisting it in your fingers at the ends where you think you want your ear to be. So like depending on how large you want it to be, just start pinching it so you can see how much you have at the top. Once you're comfortable with how much you have, you can cut it off and start rolling it out a little more, getting the shape that you want. You can start flattening it out a little more. Make sure you try to keep a little bit of a point at the end, like a teardrop, so it fits nicely into the little holes that you made. Use the Dresden tool to make a little bit of an indentation for the inside of his ears. Once you add a little bit of glue inside those holes, you can place them in there and they should be pretty secure in there. Okay. Once you have the ears on and you're comfortable with the way they look, you can start on his eyes and his nose. When rolling out the eyes, I like to cut the fondant into a ball and then cut the ball in half equally so I can try to get 2 equal size balls for the eyes. Sometimes one is always bigger than the other though. A good rule of thumb when you're doing stuff like this is try to keep the size of your ball the same size as the head of the ball tool that you used. So if you used a really tiny really tiny ball tool, try to keep that fondant the same shape, the same size. I went back and put some indentations for his eyebrows. Just because his eyebrows are like really thin, sometimes it's easier to have indentations already set there so you can actually just place the fondant in those little cavities so it stays nicely without it sliding too much around on his face. And just press the eyebrows into those little cavities that you made. When you make the nose, try to make it almost in the shape of a triangle. Add just a little glue and place the nose on. Once you press it on, you're going to want to reshape it a little bit. I'm going to keep that point at the bottom of the nose defined and the top, just a slight rounding on the top. And if you're like me, you'll do some more fussing on his face. But that's it. He's pretty much done. If you have any questions, definitely leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial enough to like and subscribe. Check back every Tuesday for new videos. Thanks guys, take care.